Hey everyone, it's Josh. I wasn't going to make another video, but in my zeal to work on things, self improvement, and the busyness of life that's been going on with me lately, I uh I almost forgot that 9/11 is tomorrow. Tomorrow's 9/11, the 21st anniversary of the day that terrorists attacked our country, took down the World Trade Centers, flew planes into the World Trade Center building, so on and so forth. You all know the story. So, what I'm going to do today is I'm going to tell my own 9/11 story. And this is what I was doing on 9/11. Okay, so let me give you a little bit of a backdrop. Back at that time, I was working as a waiter. And as such, I would make a bunch of cash every night. And generally speaking, I would close the restaurant after I got done waiting tables, and I would have a bunch of cash, and I would go out to the bars and the taverns and the nightclubs and everything, and I would party and I would get drunk and I would meet different women and I would end up at after parties and I would, get into occasional fist fights and I would just do all the stuff a young man does, right? I'm 23 years old at that time. I just turned 24. So I'm doing all the stuff young men do, chasing women, getting into fights, partying, the whole deal. So a lot of times I would be out, excuse me. A lot of times I would be out till 3:30, 4, sometimes 5 in the morning partying. And I would get home and I would sleep till 3 in the afternoon. And actually I had my alarm set to wake me up at 3 in the afternoon every day. Generally, I'd go to bed sometime at like 3:30, 4 in the morning, and then I would wake up at 3 in the afternoon. And that's because I had a night shift job. My waiting job generally was between 5 and 9 p.m. or 5 and 10 p.m. That was my usual shift. Okay, so generally like 4 nights a week. Okay, so on 9/11, it was a day like every other day for me. I was partying the night before, got drunk, whatever. Went to bed at 3 in the morning, like I always did. And my alarm woke me up at 3 in the afternoon. And I didn't hear music when I woke up. I had my alarm set to music because back then I couldn't wake up to just an alarm sound. I can now, but back then I was a really heavy sleeper. And waking up to an alarm sound just wasn't going to work for me. So I had to have my alarm set to music in order to wake myself up. So my alarm goes off, and of course, the morning of 9/11, and of course, there's no music on. And I remember turning the radio dial and not hearing anything different on any radio station whatsoever. I was just every radio station was talking news, and they all seemed to be tapped into the same frequency, telling the same story. So I'm trying to wake myself up, and I'm hearing things in the radio like terrorist attack, buildings hit, explosions, stuff like that, but I'm not really fully with it yet and fully awake yet. So I sit up a little bit, and I couldn't watch TV because my TV had blown out the week before. My TV was basically useless. So I knocked my neighbor's door. I remember her name was Sue. And as soon as and I knew her, and she was a good girl. Little crazy, but a good girl. As soon as she opened her door, I said, "Did something bad happen today?" That's what I said. Just as soon as she opened her door, I'm like, "Hi, did something bad happen today?" And she said, "Yeah." And I'm like, "Dude, I can't watch on my TV. What's going on?" So she invited me in, and she kind of put me up on what was going on. So I sat in her house for a few minutes, and I kind of watched a little bit of this, and a little bit of what they were talking about on the news. And so, I don't know, I didn't sit there for real long, maybe 10, 15 minutes. Sue had to go somewhere. So I go and knock my downstairs neighbor's door. he lets me in. We sit there and we talk, and we're kind of watching the news. And after a while, I have to go to take a shower and put my uniform on because I have to go work. At that time, I would walk to work, and it was about a 1.5 mile walk, maybe 2 miles. But I didn't mind at the time because it was my exercise, and I was usually relatively hungover, and the walk would like help rid me a lot of that hangover. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, so I'd walk to work, and this day was no different. Go upstairs, take a shower, put my uniform on. I might have grabbed a bite to eat, and I'm out the door. So I'm walking up to work, and I just remember how deserted the streets were. The street I would walk up to get to work was a very busy street. Most of the time, hundreds and hundreds of cars would pass me by as I was walking to work. But today, maybe 5 or 6 cars passed me the whole time. The whole time. Now, I didn't even really expect to have to work that night. I was expecting to get to the job. I worked at a Perkins. That's where I worked, a Perkins restaurant, and I was a waiter there. And I really expected them to tell me that there's no work today, right? So, but I was wrong. They did have me work. And what ended up happening was every other restaurant on that strip shut down except for Perkins. So it was me and one cook to deal with a bunch of customers. And because every other restaurant was shut down, all 65 tables filled up. So me and one cook had to deal with 65 tables. Now, the reason I was the only waitstaff on, and the reason that James was the only cook on, was because Tuesday nights were usually pretty slow. So you have more than one waiter on, you're not going to make enough money to even be worth it for you to work. So I got the Tuesday slot. They gave that to me to make extra money, right? So I did that. But in this particular case, because we were the only restaurant, all 65 tables filled up, I'm one waiter. James is one cook, and we couldn't get nobody else to come in. People weren't answering their cell phones. You know how that goes. So the good news is that the customers that came in that night were very patient with us. Everybody's food was late because, one waiter, one cook. But nobody was tripping out. Everybody just wanted to come out and hang out somewhere with some friends or whatever. People were scared. They didn't know what was going on. We didn't know, was Milwaukee going to be hit with a terrorist attack next? Chicago, or any other city that's right near us? We didn't know. So people just wanted to spend some time out with friends and get out of their houses and so on and so forth. I didn't party that night because I didn't get out of that restaurant until like 3 a.m. So I went home, and I don't even remember what I did. I might have just had a few beers by myself and just laid down and crashed out after that. I'm not sure. Anyway, so it was kind of an unremarkable day for me in some ways, but it was a remarkable day for me in others. Now, I did something later that week that I regret to this day. I had bought an American flag pin. It was like this really tiny American flag pin to put on my uniform. To just represent solidarity with America, and, I love America, I'm against the terrorists and all that. So a lot of people were doing stuff like that, right? And so I bought like a flag pin and I put it on my uniform. And later that week, or maybe it was the week after, I'm not exactly sure. It has been 20, 21 years. but somewhere in that vicinity, I'm walking up to work, and there's a gas station halfway between where the restaurant is and where my house is, or where my house was. And as I was walking by, there was a Middle Eastern looking guy standing outside the gas station. And I'm pretty sure that he was just like waiting for his wife. His wife must have been shopping in there or something, and he was just waiting for her to come out of there. Anyway, when I walked by him and he looked at me, I grabbed my shirt with my little flag pin on it, or my American flag pin, and I did like this to him. Like this, in a really sort of disrespectful way. And what I was saying was, F you, you're in my country. This is America, clown. Get out of there. I didn't say those words, but with my little movement like that, that's what I was trying to convey. And I don't think I ever saw that guy again. But that's something I feel bad about to this day. Because, I wasn't really like a racist person. I think one of the main reasons I was mad at the time, obviously, because of what happened with 9/11. But I think I was just trying to I knew what the attitude of the people around me would be in my neighborhood, and I was just adopting that attitude. So in a sense, I was just trying to be cool. And if he would have said anything back to me, there's a good chance I would have, put a hurting on him, beat him down. But he didn't, which is a good thing. But every 9/11 that comes along, I kind of always think about that, because that guy didn't do nothing to deserve that. He's just some guy standing outside waiting for his wife. Because he's Middle Eastern and 9/11 happened at the time and I was young and cocky and just being stupid, I gave him a little gesture. But, I don't understand. I probably don't even understand how I would make him feel with that one gesture. He probably blew it off. He probably was just like, whatever. It was probably the 8th time that week somebody had done something like that to him. So I don't think it hurt him too badly, but I just still shouldn't have done it. You know what I mean? It was a completely unprovoked situation. I was just being a bully, basically, at that moment. So if you're that guy and you happen to be out there, you were like 30 years old at the time, so I guess you'd be about 50 now. I'm sorry, man. I shouldn't have done that. And I apologize. I was being young, being stupid. I was just, I just shouldn't have done what I did there. So, that's something I always think about. But anyway, back to the main part of the story. I guess you could say 9/11 was just another day for me, except for my restaurant had to stay open until 3 in the morning. Because we didn't kick people out after close just because of the logistics of everything, So we let people sit there as long as they needed to, and they had to stay till after close anyway to even get their food. Again, one waiter, which is me, and one cook. So with 65 tables all full, you can understand how that went. But another thing that struck me about 9/11 too is at that time, the majority of people my age did not care. Which really surprised me, because I cared. And the thing is that I was a young guy like everybody else. I was partying and drinking and living that free-spirited lifestyle just like everybody else. But that don't mean I don't care when something bad happens. But most of the younger guys in that neighborhood around me at that time just had no emotional response to 9/11 whatsoever, or if they did, they pretended not to. And that's another thing that really struck me. It's like, how can you? Are you just trying too hard to look tough? Like, what is this? You know what I'm saying? For me, I couldn't do that. And like I said, I wasn't into politics back then. Again, I'm 23 years old at this time. So I'm partying, I'm drinking, I'm not thinking about politics. I have my political opinions, but I'm not thinking about politics. But when something like that happens, I pay attention and I care about it. But yeah, that's another thing that struck me too about that whole time period is like most of the people my age, at least in that neighborhood, couldn't have cared less about what happened. Again, I was a carefree dude. I just told you that a bazillion times in this video, but I wasn't that carefree where I was like completely detached from my humanity. But I don't know what to say about that. People are people, I guess. But that's my 9/11 story. And to the victims families, you are loved, you are valued, you are never forgotten. Rest in peace to everybody that went down in the trade towers, the Pentagon, the plane that went down in, what was that, in Virginia, I believe? Was that where it went down, or Ohio or something? Everybody who fell victim to the terrorist attacks that day, and all the families that still have to mourn what happened to this day. And all the people who are still alive that just had to watch that and experience that. People who were, living in apartments in New York City when that was all going down and everything. That had to have been a terrifying experience. So, yeah, that was, and unfortunately, the government did what they always do, which is use tragedies to steal our freedoms. And George W. Bush came up with the Patriot Act, and all our presidents ever since then, every last one of them, Obama, Trump, Biden, have been stealing our freedoms ever since. So, you know the story. Anyway, rest in peace to the victims, and much love to the families that had to deal with the consequences of 9/11. That's all.